Hello everyone, it's Alana and welcome back to my channel for chapter 15 of Sweetbriars Leaving the City. Now before we get too far into reading, if you have any questions, comments or reviews, feel free to message me on my social medias at Alana Clark Equestrian on Instagram and Facebook or at ace_equestrian on Twitter, and they will also be linked below. And without further ado, let's start reading. Sweetbriars Leaving the City, chapter 15. The morning was frosty and bleak as Cate and Tabby prepared for the individual dressage competition. Despite the cold weather, the test would take place outside. Fortunately, it wasn't raining, and the arenas had an all-weather surface which were good to ride on whatever the weather. Cate was jittery when she first hopped on Odette and whispered, "I know you will be brilliant," before stroking her neck and walking her around the warm-up arena. Tabby was doing an elementary test, which was one level higher than Cate. Cate was relieved as she didn't want the added pressure of competing against her friend. Mum helped them warm up for their tests, making sure they practiced all the movements required. Cate felt in tune with Odette after warming up and was so absorbed in practicing she didn't hear her name called, signalling her to begin her test. Tabby called out to Cate, "They're calling you!" Cate started in surprise, then rode Odette quickly to the allocated arena. There was a judge's box at A at the end of the arena. Cate walked Odette to the box, trying to ignore her butterflies, and halted and confirmed their names. The judge and writer peered at Cate through the window and kindly wished them good luck. Cate trotted Odette away from the box. After a minute she heard the bell ring, signalling her to enter. Cate circled around the arena and turned Odette boldly up the centre line, trying to maintain good impulsion for a square halt. Odette halted squarely and remarkably still while Cate saluted the judges. They waved their hands, indicating that Cate should begin. Cate pushed the mare back into trot and turned left at A, then proceeded to let her be and did a 20-metre circle, making sure Odette was in a forward working trot and on the bit. Cate continued to her canter work, then suddenly she heard a bell ring. She kept on going and the bell rang again. She looked towards the judges, confused. The writer left the judge's box and called out, "You made a mistake." Cate was mortified and her mind went blank. She couldn't remember where she was up to in her performance or where she'd made the mistake. Then, much to Kate's surprise, Benji appeared from nowhere and approached the judges. Cate could see them talking and nodding their heads. Benji then shouted, "Cate, I'll call the test out for you, okay?" Cate was beyond relieved and called back, "Thank you." The judges rang the bell again, signalling Cate to carry on. Cate trotted Odette and thought, stuff it, there was no point in being nervous, she was simply going to have fun since she had no chance of winning her place now. Benji's voice ran out clearly. "Cross the diagonal and trot, showing some medium trot strides. At C, canter right," and so on. Cate followed his directions, and as she didn't need to remember what was next, she focused on her riding and felt more in control. She managed to perform transitions on each marker, and Odette's free walk across the diagonal was the best. The horse stretched her head down, relaxed and at ease, striding out smoothly. Before Cate knew it, the test was coming to a finish. She halted almost square at X, saluted the judges and smiled, then left the arena. Kate's family were waiting for her nearby, along with Violet and Tabby. "I can't believe I forgot what I was doing. I just blanked," said Cate, grimacing and holding her head in her hands. "Darling, it's okay. It was your first ever dressage test, and much of it was excellent," her mother said as she patted her on the back. Benji joined them and said, "Congratulations on your first dressage test, Cate." Thanks, but I made a mistake," cried Cate dramatically, her hopes of winning a place utterly dashed. "Yes, but it doesn't matter. You lose some marks for a course error, but it's not that damaging to your result. Your walk was superb, so you'll make the marks up. The walk receives double the marks of the rest of the paces." "Really?" said Cate, astonished. She'd thought her test was ruined, and now she realised the second half of the test had been more relaxed, precisely because she thought she'd had no hope of winning a place. "Yes, really," replied Benji in his usual no-nonsense way. Again, well done, and with that he went back to the seat beside the arena to spectate his other students. Cate was awfully relieved and smiled at everyone. "See, Cate, nothing to worry about. I'm sure you'll win something," said Violet encouragingly, although Cate didn't care so much about that at this point. She had initially wanted to win a place in the competition, but now she would be happy to not come last. She hated that she had blanked when she was nervous. Mum hugged Cate and slipped Odette a couple of sugar cubes. Then she suggested they watch Tabby's dressage test. At the warm-up arena, Tabby called out, "What a lovely test! Lovely transitions and a smashing walk!" Cate called out thanks and was grateful for the support she had. She wondered where Tabby's mother was. Tabby had said she was coming, but so far there had been no sign of her. Cate put Odette back in her stable and covered her with a blanket, then rushed back to watch Tabby's test. She'd missed Tabby's entry, but caught the rest of the test. Tabby rode Nancy wonderfully, but it looked like the horse was tired, and Tabby didn't get the medium paces she needed in both the trot and canter. Nancy also trotted in the counter canter, which would hurt their overall mark. When the test finished, Tabby gushed to Cate and Violet about what a good girl Nancy was. She didn't seem disappointed by the horse's lack of energy throughout the test. Tabby had just started at elementary level and said she was happy to be competing at this level where lateral work and collection was required. Suddenly, Tabby seemed to be distracted, looking over Cate's shoulder. Cate turned around and saw an attractive lady approaching them. She was wearing a dark blue velour tracksuit, the kind that costs a lot of money, paired with expensive trainers and a quilted jacket that had an elaborate fur-trimmed hood. "Mummy, you made it," Tabby said formally, like she was talking to a stranger. "Of course I made it, darling. I was watching you from the trees over there," Tabby's mother said, pointing to a cluster of trees to prove this point. "Sure," replied Tabby, and she pressed her lips together, then smiled. "You were marvellous, as usual," said her mother as she patted Tabby's arm, taking care not to get too close to Nancy. Tabby then introduced her mother, who was called Diane, to Cate and Violet. "Oh, aren't you an adorable lot? I'm thrilled that Tabitha has wonderful friends like you," said Diane, in a loud, over-the-top voice. Cate noticed she looked a lot like Tabby, a blonde bouncy bob, brilliant green eyes and luminescent skin. Diane reminded Cate of a grown-up Barbie doll. She had bronzed her face, had ink-black eyelashes, carefully lined eyes and manicured nails. An announcement came over the loudspeaker reminding people that the prize giving for the dressage would be at 4 o'clock, followed by the fancy dress parade an hour later. They would need to go to the clubhouse around 3 o'clock to see their results. The girls took Nancy back to her stable. Diane trailed behind them, careful where she placed her expensively clad feet. Back at the stable, they fed the horses, brushed them and put on their blankets. The day was becoming more miserable, and they didn't want the horses to catch a chill. Diane stood around looking like a fish out of water. The questions she asked revealed that her knowledge of Nancy and Tabby's relationship was limited. Diane looked at her gold watch regularly until she declared she had to leave to attend a Pilates class, but she would return later for the parade. She hugged Tabby, who thanked her mother politely for coming. At 3 o'clock, the girls went to the clubhouse to retrieve their dressage results. Cate couldn't believe it. She'd come in fourth with a score of 66%. That meant she would have to attend the prize-giving ceremonies. They awarded rosettes up to 5th place. Tabby came in 5th place, however, with a lower percentage of 62%. "How can that be?" asked Cate, mystified. "Did you not see the supermodel warm bloods in the warm-up arena? They were competing in my test as well as the higher tests. I just can't compete against that with Nancy, not to mention that she lacked energy today," said Tabby, sighing. "Yes, but next year you'll be able to compete against them with Bliss. That'll be more of a fair competition," countered Violet in a knowledgeable voice. "Oh, I hope so. That would be amazing," replied Tabby wistfully. Violet produced snack-sized Bounty chocolate bars with a cheeky smile. "Anyone fancy some chocolate to celebrate?" The girls laughed and remarked how Violet knew the best moments to produce chocolate. They gobbled it down and raced to the stables to get ready for the prize-giving ceremony. There were 2 prize-giving ceremonies for Cate and Tabby to attend, the pas de deux and the individual dressage. During the ceremony, the judges congratulated the winners and pinned the rosettes to their bridles. Odette stood calmly whilst the rosettes were fastened to her brow band, and Cate felt so proud. As they left the arena, they were stopped by the photographer to take pictures. Both Cate and Tabby smiled proudly, and Cate was relieved to see Tabby distracted from Bliss's accident. Afterwards, the girls prepared for the fancy dress party. The horses seemed miffed to have their manes and tails sprayed green and gooey, glittery stuff applied to their coats, but they didn't make too much of a fuss. Cate was excited about the parade, but also a tad worried that Genevieve might drop the flag again. Tabby said she wouldn't dare at the championships. She would be too frightened of the repercussions from Mans. Inside the arena, there were sea creatures everywhere. They waited with the other riders from their pony club for Mans to give them a signal to begin the parade. They would do the walk and trot circuits first to show off their costumes before pairing off and cantering around. Genevieve and Jilly were standing in front of them, and they were dressed as sailors in white. Genevieve's outfit fit her to a T, and her pale blonde hair was left loose, hanging down her back. She had a sailor hat pushed over her helmet, and Cate had to admit she looked good. Genevieve and Jilly painted quite a different picture in the same costume, with the curvier Genevieve bursting from her sailor outfit. It seemed to be 1 or 2 sizes too small. "Oh, how sweet! You made your costumes yourself?" asked Genevieve airily. "Of course, and what fun we had doing it," said Tabby jubilantly. "Ours were custom-made by my family tailor," boasted Jilly. "Congratulations," said Violet. They fit you both so well, with a small laugh. Mans appeared in front of them, waving her hand and shouting, "We're ready!" They started walking as a group of 20 riders, and Cate could see the seats around the arena brimming with family and friends. As they reached the end of the arena, Cate saw Benji sitting close to her parents. She waved joyously at them all. They began their trot circuit with the riders and horses staying in their pairs. Cate could feel her wig tickling her neck and back and hoped it wouldn't fall off. After trotting a lap, they halted in the middle of the arena. The first pair of bay horses cantered off with their flags, and it seemed like seconds before they were giving the flags to the next pair of grey horses. Genevieve and Jilly were next, and Jilly's small buckskin was dancing around in anticipation. They took the flags from the grey horses' riders and cantered off. They managed to keep side by side this time, with the small buckskin full of excitement galloping next to Lady's prim canter stride. There was loud music, and Lady seemed to swish her tail tensely to the rhythm of the music. As Genevieve and Jilly approached, Tabby smiled at Cate and made a thumbs-up gesture. Cate smiled back and could feel her adrenaline surging as Genevieve and Jilly cantered towards them. In contrast, Odette was curiously still, probably tired from the weekend's activities. Genevieve was wearing a stony look of concentration, and Cate held out her hand, ready to receive the flag. This time Genevieve passed it smoothly to her. Cate got a firm grip on the flagpole and asked Odette to canter from the walk. Tabby asked Nancy at the same time, and they cantered off. Odette was suddenly full of herself with energy, cantering almost on the spot at first and snorting loudly. Cate felt a tad anxious that the mare might go out of control and held on to the reins tensely. After a few strides, Cate let go of her fears and was exhilarated, feeling the pure energy of Odette's canter and being watched by her family. After circling around, they finished back in the middle, laughing and were having the best time, and gave each other high fives. As they watched the last pair's canter, Cate could see Tabby's mother sitting with her mum and dad. She seemed to be enjoying herself, clapping and cheering along with the other spectators. When it was time to leave the arena, Diane caught up with them outside. Despite her mother looking totally out of place with high-heel boots on, Tabby looked happy to see her and asked if she enjoyed the parade. "Oh, darling, it was such fun to see you poppets all dressed up, and even the horses! How delightful!" gushed Diane. "Thanks, Mummy. This weekend hasn't been all fun, though," said Tabby as her eyes clouded over. "What on earth happened, Tabitha?" her mother asked dramatically, opening her green eyes wide and taking a delicate sip from her takeaway coffee. Tabby confided in her mother, telling her about the accident the day before with Bliss. Cate and Violet stood nearby, waiting for Tabby, not sure if they should stay, but also captivated by the discussion. "Tabitha, darling, I'm sure it will be just fine. You are a gifted equestrian, and if Bliss doesn't make it, you'll be given another wonderful horse to ride." "Mother, you have no idea how the horse world works. You aren't just given amazing horses to ride willy-nilly," Tabby said fervently. Tabby took a deep breath and seemed to gather her composure. "Well, the most amazing thing is, Bliss should be just fine," added Tabby firmly. "Of course, he will be just fine," offered Diane, her perfectly painted lips forming a smile. "Tabster, it's getting cold. Do you want us to wait for you?" called out Violet, as both Cate and Violet huddled with their horses under the awning of the indoor arena, waiting for Tabby. Diane looked like she was about to choke on her coffee when Violet called Tabby Tabster, and Cate resisted a smile. "I will leave you puppets to get on with your horse things," Diane said in a stiff but not unfriendly voice. The girls said goodbye to Diane and rode back to the stables. On the way, Tabby exasperatedly declared there was no point in telling her mum anything about horses. Back at the lorry, they packed everything up, with Violet seemingly enjoying the process. Violet bounced around cheerfully, remembering where most things were. She was even able to remind Cate and Tabby where their things were when they stood around looking dazed and confused, tired from participating in such a full weekend. Around 7 o'clock they were ready to leave, and Mum took 4 wary kids and 5 equally wary horses home in the lorry. During the journey, Cate thought about the weekend and what fun she'd had. She even enjoyed the dressage test, well, mainly the second half, and was thankful to Benji for saving her in the dressage test and teaching her so many new things in such a short space of time. They dropped Nancy and Tabby at Avonlea Park and pulled into the drive of Sweetbriars soon afterwards. Mickey and Pip were sitting beside each other in the stable yard with their fur standing up, braced against the cold, waiting to greet them. Cate realised they must have heard the lorry pull into the drive. When they jumped out of the lorry, Mickey cocked his ears, barked, and jumped for joy. Pip snaked around Kate's legs, meowing and purring happily. "Home sweet home," thought Cate. She gave Pip a cuddle and placed him on his favourite blanket on the ledge of the feed room. They put the horses in their warm, thick beds and gave them full buckets of feed mixed with warm water and molasses. The horses tucked into their supper heartily, and Cate wished Odette a good night and slipped her a sugar cube. Cate couldn't wait to soak in a hot bath as her feet were freezing. She raced inside the house and greeted her dad with a big hug before bounding upstairs to run a hot bath. Realising she hadn't had time to read her dressage test properly, she took it with her to read while she soaked in the bath. It was a relief to peel her dirty Pony Club clothes from her body. Catching her reflection in the mirror, Cate realised she looked a right mess with her hair dishevelled, her cheeks flushed and molasses smeared across her cheek. She lowered herself into the warm bubble bath and scrubbed her face with a flannel. Feeling a little cleaner, she reached for the dressage test she had left on top of the closed toilet seat. Cate spent the next 20 minutes poring over the judges' comments. At the end of the test, the judges said they were a promising pair with huge potential. Cate was content and felt a real sense of accomplishment. She was so pleased with Odette and couldn't have agreed with her mum more, that having fun riding was so much more important than winning a dressage test. She also surprised herself as she began to wonder when she could try her next dressage competition. And that is all from Ella and I today. I really hope you enjoyed the chapter, and I really did. And if you haven't already, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you know when chapter 16, the final chapter, is going to be coming out. And from Ella and I, it's goodbye!